Okay, this is the second target machine, VulnOSv2, that we're going to be penetration testing. So I'm here with the attack machine, this time using VirtualBox with a host-only adapter again. Just power up the machines. With VulnOS, we just enter in with standard login. Let's just check that we are using the correct host-only adapter. Okay, that one's good. Now we can move on to the Kali machine. Again, let's just check the network. This is also host-only adapter. You can just modify our display a little bit there to give us a little bit of increased working space. Okay, first of all, we just need to provide some reconnaissance of the machines and everything that's available on our local machines. First of all, we'll start running a covered scan where we are spoofing the MAC address across a specific network range. We just need to check as well the range of which we're working across, so we can just check here exactly where we are, on which class. So 192.168.56.4 is our IP. We can also check on our host machine what have we got? VirtualBox, host only network 2, 192.168.56.1, so we're in the right range. 168.56.1-255, so we can scan over the full range. The issue is here that this test takes quite a substantial amount of time, so we'll run an additional test here just to see what other information we can gather quickly. Obviously this is just a test, not too much of an issue here. Let's see what we get returned. We'll just run this one in the background for now. So here we have our network adapter and standard open ports, and also we've come up with 104 Nmap scan. So that's the first of the tests for now. Then we'll come back to the next test. Test 2, we are simply just going to use our Firefox browser. Since this machine is running AT, HTTP, TCP port, it's quite possible that there'll be information readily available on there. So we can just go straight to here. Here we've got some specific information. We can just go to the website. Here we have some just standard company information here, not really much going on. When we move across to documentation, seems like there should be something here, so let's inspect the page. When we go to inspect the page, let's see if we can find something hidden in there. So here we have for detailed view of documentation, visit our documentation platform. So this is probably a directory on the server. Just log in with guest. So here, let's try. So this brings us to a new page. Here we've got an open documentation server, which is actually giving us a reference to OpenDocman. So when we go into there, it's probably worth just noting the version for possible vulnerabilities on this specific web server, and we can just log in here with the credentials that they've given us. It just has some typical information, not really much to help us out here. No admin rights, so let's just try and create an account, and maybe will give us some additional information. We can just do typical email layout. Probably don't need any of this information. Department, BioWare, or information systems. Let's try information systems, because this will probably give us an additional privileges. Here it's given us a automatically generated password. Let's just try logging in and see if we manage to get something else here. So no files found. Nothing to do here really. I don't think we don't really have any additional information. This is not possible to change. Maybe there's a possibility to upload some documentation, probably maybe create a reverse TCP communication with some code in here if it's executed. But for now, that's the end of this test. For finding more information about that, we'll move on to the next test shortly. So moving on to test 3. Now we're going to use SQL map to effectively footprint all of the information on the server itself. We can just minimize this one. Let's start a new terminal for now. So taking information previously that it was OpenManDoc 1.2.7 version. Here we'll go to the exploit database to see if we can find some further information on that. So we can just change our network for now just to NAT, so we can have a outside connection to the internet to check the database. Here we can go to the exploit database. We can search for OpenDocman, and this should give us something hopefully for the version type. So there's multiple vulnerabilities on this one, and specifically we can take note of this SQL injection into OpenManDoc. So with that we can actually use the SQL maps to inject information to return something from us, something from there back to us effectively. So now we've got the information that we require, we can generate our own injection on that. So what we'll do is just revert and protect our systems again. We can just change back to host only. Obviously we're using vulnerable systems, it's not good to have connections like that. So we'll just wait for the DHCP. We'll just make sure that it's switched back now. Okay, so we're good to go. So first of all, we need to generate a request from there. And we want to query the user database. Just run that. Obviously this is going to run quite a lot of information and testing in the background, so we'll just pause it while that's running. So finally the SQ mapping completed after quite a substantial amount of time. You can see here the amount of information that was generated that it had to scan through. Now we can see that the available databases that it's built up is Drupal 7, Information Scheme, and JABC 0CS. This is what we're interested in, is the database here. So what we need to do is now generate another request, and we'll come back basically to dump all of the information and receive that. So finally we can check back onto the database. The SQL mapping is finally finished after quite a substantial amount of time. When we go back through the tables, we can see that it's actually received quite a substantial amount of information. Obviously the larger the database, the longer it's going to take to download all the information. Here we've got the Odm Users Database, which is what we're after. Here we can see that we've actually created the users, and these are the hashes for the users. So let's just take one example and run the hash through the website. We'll just have to pop onto a NAT network so we can have internet access. We can just run Firefox and we can check hashes platform. Takes us decrypt basic. Let's just paste that hash in there and see what it's going to be able to run for us. So this is returned. That hash is webmin 1980. So now let's just take off, go back to our host only network. Obviously this is a little over the top, but we don't really need to keep swapping it backwards and forwards on the Kali machine. The Kali machine should be fairly secure anyway. Just minimize that one. So actually, we go back up to our table. So the username is webmin, and now we know it's webmin 1980. We move across to several different ways of logging in here. So since we know that port 22 is actually open, we're going to try logging in with SSH command. So in this test, we can run SSH webmin at 56.104, asking us for the password, webmin 1980. Here we have some access telling us it's webmin. Obviously we're in a shell listening. Access here. Here we have Linux VulnOSv2, so we're actually logged into the system now, which proves that we've successfully found users and passwords on the system. Now what we need to try to do is to move and attempt privilege escalation, which is going to be the next test, test 5, and we'll come back